involved with RSN for nearly 15 years. Support from someone who's been there makes all the difference.
Hey David, what are you listening to?
Kidney Talk, an online radio podcast that talks about kidney disease and the prevention of it.
Oh, cool. Where can I find that?
Oh, you can download it on iHeartRadio, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.
Oh, nice. I'll definitely have to download that.
Shout out to Renal Support Network, the annual Renal Support Network essay contest. I won the Renal Support Network contest last year, the Warrior, and we are all warriors. So thank you. Keep on doing all that you do, and be happy and healthy and keep the hope. Thank you, Renal Support Network. Woohoo!
As a kidney transplant recipient, I find that having an actual publication like Kidney Talk is an invaluable resource for any kidney warrior at any stage.
RSN keeps me informed of kidney advocacy issues so my voice can be heard.
I'm really looking forward to the prom this year and meeting people who are just like me. Dressing up is super fun and all the activities are amazing. Can't wait to see you there.
Hi, I've been participating in the Renal Support Network 30-minute fitness Zoom classes. Not only have I lost 15 pounds, but I can also strike a yoga pose like this.
When I created Renal Support Network back in 1993, I had no idea the impact that I would have among my peers. An illness is too demanding when you don't have hope, and peer support, education, and knowledge are crucial to our survival. We have a great week planned with some incredible speakers, great information for you to share, learn, so we can survive and thrive with this illness. It's imperative. So stay tuned. We're going to have a great event, and a shout out to our corporate mission partners for making this happen. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon in some parts of the world, and probably good evening in other parts of the world. I'm very excited. I'm going to be introducing our MC, Sasha Couch. She is a good friend of mine. She is a kidney warrior. She's had a kidney pancreas transplant, and I want to introduce her, but before I turn it over to her, our first speaker is having some difficulty getting on. So, Sasha, we're going to chit-chat for a while, and we'll see if we can work this out.
The topic for today's theme is a focus on dialysis. So today we're going to have a lot of information about dialysis. We're going to have 4 medical specialists speak to us about different elements of dialysis or being on dialysis or things that come from dialysis. And at first, our first speaker, when we can figure out where he is and if he's on.
Logging on, Sasha.
Okay.
There's
great.
hope.
So
There's hope. I have a question for you. I have a question for you, just because I think that, yes, because, you were on dialysis for many years, waiting for a kidney pancreas transplant. And, what's something you did to really help you cope during that time?
Well, we had a great performer yesterday who I see as part of our audience today, Carla, and she spoke about the importance of laughing a lot. She is a performer. She does great songs. She's amazing. And I think when she said that, that really hit home, because I think keeping your spirit up, laughing, just knowing that your disease is not, you are not your disease. Your disease is something that you're dealing with, but that is not your identity, is super important. And people need to remember that. I kept my spirits up. I think that was really important. I did both. So since the focus is dialysis today, I did both hemo and home peritoneal dialysis. before I got my transplant. So I am well versed in both. And I definitely feel like different people have different coping mechanisms, but I always try to stay, positive. I think that's cliche, stay positive, but I think being on dialysis really taught me that staying positive is, as cliche as that may be, it is critical to getting through this journey as best you can.
So true. Well, our speaker arrived, so make the introduction.
Okay. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Tim Atkins. He has an incredible story. He's been on dialysis for 40 years, and at one point he was in the Guinness Book of World Records for the person who's been on dialysis the longest, and he's still going strong. He takes pride in his mission work. He helps people on Native American reservations. He speaks, I believe the organization is called One Hope, that he gives us, he speaks on and at. And he also travels around for Fresenius Medical Care and speaks about the importance of home dialysis. So Tim, take it away.
Thank you very much. It's such a privilege to be here today with RSN and all they do for people in the kidney community and patients that's starting dialysis and all the information they have. It's a real blessing to be here and able to speak today and tell a little bit about my life and what's how I've dealt with it and what's going on in the world. And it's just again a real pleasure to be here. Again, my name's Tim Atkins. I'm 62 years old. I started dialysis when I was 14, and that was kind of the dark ages for transplantation. Really, the only medication they had at that time was basically prednisone. And just about 6 months, I guess, after starting my dialysis, I got my first transplant. And it was really, a bad situation. I was in the hospital about 3 months with that transplant. Never really got to go home, and eventually they had to remove it. So I went back on dialysis and stayed on dialysis up to about 1997, and I was living in Denver, Colorado. They had come a long way with a lot of transplant drugs and a lot of the procedures, so I went to some meetings about transplantation there in Colorado at the University of Colorado Medical Center, and went back on the list. And I was working at a radio station up in Estes Park, which is about an hour away from Denver. Kind of a funny story. When I got called for my transplant, which was about a year after I went on the list, I was actually on the air. And my wife called me and said, "Tim, they called you for a transplant." And there was nobody at the station except myself and the secretary. And fortunately at that time, most of the music was programmed into the computer. You didn't have to play records or anything back like in the early days. So I actually went out into the lobby and told the secretary I got called for a transplant in Denver. And I said, just go into the studio, and if anything goes wrong, hit this button, which is just the reset button on the computer. So I knew that would restart everything and it would start playing music again. So anyway, we drove to Denver, and I got a transplant in 97. It lasted for 6 years. It eventually failed and I had to go back on dialysis. So during that time period, I did a lot of things to stay positive in my life. I started out actually thinking that I wasn't going to let this disease stop me in my dreams. And that's kind of been the theme of all my talks and presentations, is living your dream, and don't let dialysis and the consequences that come along with that stop you. That you continue to live your dreams as much as possible. See if I can keep it in sequence here. A little later, after I started dialysis, we started doing home dialysis, and that was a major step because I'd been presented with it, but I didn't really want to do it at home because I didn't really want to be reminded of dialysis with having the machine and the equipment in my home. So I did not pursue it. But my wife eventually said, "You know what? Let's just see what let's see what we can do with this and go to the meeting. So we went to a few meetings about doing home and eventually signed up to do it. We were training for a few weeks and got our machine in our house and started doing home dialysis. And that was just such a game changer as far as going to clinics and what I could do with my life compared to what I can do with my life and control my situation and doing it at home. And after we started doing it at home for about a year, I got involved with mission work with the Native Americans. My great-grandmother was Cherokee, so that always gave me interest in Native American culture. And we decided to put a next stage machine. I was using the Fresenius K at home at the time, but we decided to do a next stage because of its size in the back of a motorhome, a recreational vehicle. So we took out the back closet in the RV and set my next stage in back of it and headed out to Arizona and spent 4 months on the Apache reservation in Arizona doing mission work, which was just, a real thrill getting to meet all the different Native American cultures and their tribes. And they were just such a loving people, and it was such a blessing to be able to do that. So we spent 4 months in Arizona on the Apache reservation. We came back, and after that, we decided to take a vacation, and we decided to go to the Virgin Islands. So while I was in the Virgin Islands, I'd worked in radio most of my life, and my wife is a nurse, and at the time we decided to, while we were in the Virgin Islands, I decided to visit some of the radio stations, and my wife went to the local hospital. And while we were in the Virgin Islands, my wife was asked for her resume, and I was asked about my interest in working in radio there, and I said, oh, absolutely. So by the time we got home, to make a long story short, we both had offers in the U.S. Virgin Islands for jobs. I worked at the local radio station there, and she got an offer at the hospital. So we went back to the Virgin Islands, giving up our opportunity to do home dialysis because there was no home hemo programs in the Virgin Islands. They just had a clinic at the hospital there. So I ran at the clinic there for about a year, and then decided to pursue home dialysis. And we were the first couple to do home dialysis in the Virgin Islands. We had to fly to Puerto Rico, where they had a Fresenius clinic to train again. Once we were trained for a couple of weeks, they actually flew the equipment over and set it up in our home there in the Virgin Islands. And we were the first couple to do home dialysis in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And we did that for about 2 years, I guess. We were there for a total of a little over 3 years when we left and come back to the United States. So when we came back to the United States, I again decided to pursue, my desire to do missions and to help others. I got hooked up with a Russian group called New Life USA. They had started a drug and rehabilitation program, a drug and alcohol rehabilitation program here in my home state of Missouri. So I got hooked up with them and got to go down and speak with them almost on a weekly basis to the guys and girls coming into the program. Again, just an amazing opportunity to do something to help others and not concentrate so much on, what was happening with me and my dialysis. And I think that's really important, to take what you have learned from this and the pain and the different mental things that you've went through with it all, the doctor's visits, the clinic visits, and use that opportunity to share with others and kind of take the focus off yourself so much and make it your dream, make it your desire to take a bad situation and turn it into a good situation by helping others. So I go back to, I spoke at the New Life Center. It was run by Russians, so usually I had a Russian interpreter. A lot of the people there were Slavic descent, so they couldn't speak English. I got a chance to help a lot of young people. There was a lot of young people coming in from Los Angeles and Chicago, Seattle, these big cities that were having difficulties with drugs and alcohol. And again, to take the focus off me and to help them get on the right path. And I think them seeing what I was going through, that it encouraged them that them having healthy bodies, it could really help them to get off of the drug situation, the alcohol situation, and to take what they were given, which was a healthy life, and to make that life better for not only themselves but others. A lot of those guys I've talked to now are in successful businesses in those cities. One of the kids that was a very bad heroin addict is now back in Los Angeles and has a successful trucking company. He just opened a new trucking company in Belize and opened a new trucking company in his home country of Armenia. So, what a cool thing to see those guys that were just, on the streets and now successful and living a full life, hopefully by something that I encouraged them and said to them. So, I've been working with New Life USA, the Apache reservations, Fresenius, because we've done home for so long now. We've been doing it about 15 years, home dialysis. Asked me to go to different cities and speak to nurses and techs and RNs about the advantages of doing home dialysis. And they have flown me into Atlanta and Charlotte, North Carolina, Dallas, Texas. So I've got an opportunity to speak of the benefits of doing home and how it's helped me in my life and to live a more fulfilling life by doing home dialysis. And anybody listening, patients or, doctors, nurses, if you're a patient, really look into it if you've never thought about doing home dialysis, because it will actually change your life. It really will. It'll give you so many advantages in your scheduling and how you feel about doing dialysis. Doctors, RNs, tech people that are listening, encourage the patients to look into home dialysis if they haven't, because again, when you can schedule it yourself, you can plan trips around your dialysis. It just gives you such more opportunities to live a lifestyle that is normal. You don't have to stop every day at 2 o'clock, let's say, and get ready to go into the clinic. It makes a big difference. You can go, you can schedule your own time that day when you want to run and do your treatment. It's just such a blessing to be able to encourage people to do that. And I'll tell you a quick story. I'm running out of time here. But when I was doing my speaking in Atlanta, it was a pretty large group that came to that meeting, about 200 nurses and doctors and patient advocates, technical people. And when I got home from that meeting, I got an email from one of the CEOs of Fresenius. And they said, Tim, we didn't get a chance to tell you because you had to leave early for your flight. But one of the people that was in the audience was listening to you talking about your life, your dreams, and how you've tried to help others and encourage them to do things. But she was listening in the audience. She was an RN, and she had been trying to start her own dialysis clinic through one of the major companies in Haiti. And she had come up against so many obstacles, spent a lot of her own money in trying to get this dialysis clinic started for the unfortunate people of Haiti that didn't have hardly any alternatives at the time for dialysis, that she had basically given up. And she said that after she heard me speak, that she went and bought a ticket to go back to Haiti that day and fly back and continue her pursuit of opening that clinic in Haiti. And when I heard that, I thought of all the people that were there, a couple of hundred, that one person, heard my story and had given up basically on starting that clinic in a third world country that hardly had any dialysis care at all. And the next day she bought a ticket for a plane and flew back down there to continue her work on starting that dialysis clinic in Haiti. So that was a real thrill in my heart to hear that. As Sasha said in the beginning, I got the Guinness World Record for dialysis. It wasn't. I had it about a year, so it was short-lived. But I found out a gentleman in Toronto, Canada, had me beat for my time on dialysis by about 4 years. So he currently has the record. But it was a thrill to actually be a Guinness World Record holder. I still have the certificate on my wall in my office, and it's been quite the ride for my dialysis. I currently do a I've stayed in broadcasting. I'm kind of semi-retired. I currently do a positive gospel type radio show that runs on Joyful FM in Johannesburg, South Africa, and it runs in the Virgin Islands. And I'm working on that. There's a station in Jamaica that's wanting to run it right now, but it's been running on Joyful FM and Johannesburg, South Africa. I just did my 45th week. I do a weekly show. So coming up on 1 year, I'm doing that radio show in Africa. And again, it's a positive show that's uplifting, and I try to encourage people with the music I play and the things that I have to say. So again, I want to thank Lori and all they do, and for inviting me to speak today. You know, like I said, it's just been, it's been, you know, it's had its low points too, with the dialysis, of course, and the kidney, you know, the kidney transplants failing. I had two. I had my first one right after I started dialysis, which lasted only a few months, and then the second one that I was talking to you about, I had in Denver. It lasted 6 years. I tried again for a third one, but they said because of some vascular issues with calcification that they were just too worried to do a third transplant, and I basically would just have to stay on dialysis. But I'm making the best of it. You know, I still do my radio stuff. We're actually planning a trip to Belize in February with the virus situation. If it calms down a little bit, I have a friend there that I was talking to you about, the gentleman that started the trucking company, the shipping company, and he wants us to come down. He's actually wanting to start an orphanage there in Belize, and he's wanting us to come down and be a part of that. So we're looking forward to doing that possibly in February. So again, Lori and everybody, Sasha, thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. I hope it's encouraged patients that are listening, doctors and RNs that are listening. Encourage your patients to get into home dialysis if possible. I know it's not for everyone, but if possible, do so. So I'll give it back to you guys. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much, Tim. That was incredible. And also, now, everyone, if anyone says to you they just can't possibly deal with dialysis, you say, I have a story for you about a guy named Tim. And also, Tim was a winner of one of RSN's essay contests, and you can find that. I think Lori put the link to that in the chat.
I did.
And also he was on a kidney podcast, and you can find Kidney Talk podcast, which is RSN's podcast, on, correct me if I'm wrong, Google Play, is that right? Apple, and Lori, what's the third one? Apple, Google Play, and you're muted.
Any podcast.
iHeartRadio.
iHeartRadio. That's the one I can never, ever remember. Okay, iHeartRadio. Yeah, Kidney Talk. Lots of great information on those, and Tim's is particularly great. Thank you so much, Tim. That was very inspirational.
And a shout out to our corporate mission partners for making this happen.